Welcome to Who You Were with Patrick Noth and Sebastian Canelli. In each episode, we ask our guests to talk about a time in their life when they were significantly different.
Okay, so welcome to Who You Were. My name's Patrick Noth.
Wait, that's how we're starting?
No, I don't want to start like that. Actually, I want to ask about
Yes.
you were A&Ring, you were saying.
A&R admin.
And you, wait, so Blue Cantrell, you said, and I know she did that one song about like, I'm going to take your money.
Or it was Hit 'em Up Style.
Hit 'em Up Style, yeah, that one.
That was her big single.
Yeah. Did she do that other one that, boom, ba-na-na-na-na-na, boom, boom? No, that wasn't her?
I mean, maybe. I mean, the thing, even though I worked at Arista Records for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
It was like I temped the entire time.
Yeah.
They wanted, I think at one point they wanted me to maybe groom to be like, because they were trying to do rock stuff.
Right.
And they're like, oh, you're in a band. You're in a Brooklyn band.
Right.
But I wasn't having it. But yeah, I worked there and so because they would also let me leave.
Yeah.
For weeks on end for tour.
Wow.
And then
that's
come
great.
back.
That's great.
It was just the pay was garbage and whatever. But yeah, it was like Blue Cantrell. But I didn't pay attention to most of the stuff.
Before you came in here, I was asking about this, and literally you named like 10 artists that are way cooler than Blue Cantrell, and I led with Blue Cantrell.
Right. Well, because, yeah, we had Outkast solo records.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Avril Lavigne's first record, the big one, was Skater Boy.
Skater Boy, you better believe it.
I remember being so annoyed by it.
Why? I guess I was also 11 when
Right,
it
and I
came
was
out.
like 22 or whatever. Boys to Men reunion, Whitney Houston reunion.
Holy shit.
Who is she reunioning with? Herself?
Herself, or I guess her comeback. We'll change that
her
to
comeback.
comeback.
Thank you. Please.
Boys
I'm
to
a
Men-
wordsmith, so
Right.
you got to be
I
careful around
understand.
me. I'm a fucking
always forget
archaeologist
that.
of words.
But then also there was a bunch of like these terrible rock bands, like From Zero. This
Yes.
band Edema, who was like the singer of Korn's half brother's band.
Oh, weird.
This terrible band Wakefield, who I had to see at a showcase, or this pop punk band.
Right. That was the time when Korn was selling so many records they could get their fucking half-brother
Yeah,
record
exactly.
deal.
The biggest, and every once in a while I'd have people like be like, I met like Cypher Sounds worked there with me.
Oh, that's cool.
fucking insane.
But we didn't know until after, like, I was doing the UCB podcast, and he mentioned, like, Harrison. I was like, and he worked upstairs with this guy, Bolo. I worked in A&R admin, paying bills.
That's crazy. We've been trying to get him on the show because his resume is fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like, at one point, he was like, oh, yeah, I managed this artist, Cuckoo Cal. And I was like, that's like the only rapper. I'm from Milwaukee. That's the only rapper that ever came out of Milwaukee. And Cypher, like, produced and managed him.
Right.
Oh, my God.
And, like, there's just he'll drop random shit like that, and you'll just be like, what the fuck is your life?
And they'll be like, Keaton Patty, yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah.
I was his intern or something. Like, wait, what?
It's like, I can't believe I didn't get on fucking Lloyd. And you're like, what are you talking about?
There's a whole nother world there. But
Yeah.
yeah, Arista was just like paying bill. Like, it was literally like they'd get in the studio bills. I remember at the time it was a lot of car service. Like, I was just like, why are they wasting like thousands of dollars on car service?
Right.
I remember the craziest bills were because it was like before the internet was strong enough that like they would master every mix.
Right.
Like, anytime they did a mix, they would master it.
So, like a rough mix, first version?
Yes, it's just like, I want the vocals up just a little bit. Let me get that rough mix and send it to the Hit Factory to master it.
This is insane.
And then send it back over. And they would pay also to send it over some sort of like when the internet, again, wasn't that strong, a system to get it over in 2 hours from the studio so we didn't have to run over with a car to pick it up.
Right.
But it would be like thousands of dollars on that. Like, I think I told you before, Boyz II Men's Fat Camp. Like, I paid for that because they got big on their reunion. Like,
Did all of them get big?
I think most of 3/4.
Three-quarters
I think
of
maybe
them.
the skinny ones stayed skinny.
3 out of 4.
Yeah, 3 or
He didn't
4
have
ain't
to
bad.
go.
Yeah.
He just went to regular camp.
Right.
He was on a canoe.
But so I just got all the bills in, and I would put them into the system basically, and then I would have to call producers and they call me, and like my boss would be like, pick it up, I don't want to answer it.
You know what's insane?
So it'd be like Blaze, like whatever, like Just Blaze was a sub label.
Oh man, Just Blaze is
like
a fucking monster.
all of those, like it would be like, you know, I'd have to talk to Pharrell's label.
Holy shit.
Like all the, and then like random things too, like Patti Smith's guitarist was in one day.
Unreal.
Because they were doing they owned Patti Smith's rights and they were remastering them all. So Lenny Kaye was there. And I was
Wow.
like, oh, hey, Lenny Kaye.
That's crazy.
I was there when Real World was back there because Real World came back to New York.
Wow.
And they were working at Arista as their job. So we had like a meeting with them and I
my
vaguely hit on the kind of punk girl. and I should have been like,
What does that
blew
look
it.
like? Vaguely hitting on.
Like I was just like, oh,
said hi?
Yeah, I was like, I walked up and we had like a meet and greet in the office, and then I was just like, so this is stupid, huh? Or so like I was like, and she's like, yeah, it's not that cool. I just was at Stern, and then like after I was like, she was cute. I should go let her know we're playing the Bowery Ballroom tonight.
Sure.
With this band, The Promise Ring, and I was like, I bet you she likes that band, and then she was gone. I never saw her again. But
Wait, what did they have the Real World do at Arista? Like
they were doing Street Team.
Oh,
so they had a
gotcha.
floor to themselves, 4 floors above us, in between the. They had a recording studio at Arista to do like drop-in radio spots,
Right.
And then a like library where I stole. And when I got laid off and Arista was dissolving, I spent the last 3 weeks just stealing.
Right.
Like it was just like everything that wasn't nailed down.
What are
And,
we
like,
talking about? Like, what did you get? Some outboard gear? What did you get?
No, I didn't get. Oh, I got like just a lot of boom boxes, like
Nice,
because
yeah.
everyone had a boom box, like any sort of electronic. But mostly, it was like I would leave with just bags and bags of CDs, which at that point you could actually sell.
Oh, wow.
So legitimately, after I got laid off, I got unemployment, and I paid rent for 2 or 3 months, like off of just like, all right, I need $400. Let me just go into this closet in my apartment with 3 other idiots, and I just pick all the ones that would sell on this website.
Amazing.
Because I was like, they owe me,
Right.
They get
Right,
everything
right.
here.
That was, back when, like, I literally felt entitled to anything and everything.
Right.
Wait, I have like, so what I want to ask you is, because
Right.
I've always wanted to have a conversation with you about all this shit,
Yeah.
because we both come from a music background, but
Right.
when you were talking about, like, the internet not existing, and we're veering off a little bit, but, the budgets that these fucking record companies used to have and the money that they used to waste.
Yeah.
And like nobody paid attention to the internet. So like, and like ASCAP or BMI, all those fucking idiots,
Yeah.
like they just let, like, you know how there was the writer's strike when Netflix got popular? Like nothing like that happened for musicians.
nothing.
So the whole fucking industry completely tanked. And if you look back.
And all streaming and contracts are terrible. Like
Yes.
the what you're going, because they were just like, this isn't going to be a real thing.
Yes.
We don't have to worry about it. So in contracts, that there's a reason we're all getting a penny for 1 billion plays, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's insane. And they used to have like budgets. They used to give you studios. Like now it's like, okay, go figure it out. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they literally will just be like, okay, bring your fucking record in.
Right.
But they used to have, I mean, the budgets were, they would rent a mansion and record a song, and then turn it into a studio.
I think I was working there when it was starting to turn-ish. Like it was like, the internet was like streaming and stuff was about to come.
Yeah.
Like, cause it was like graduated college. So it was like 2001 to 3.
Right.
And it was when I was like starting my band out of college. But like, I also was coming from like a punk background.
Right.
So the whole time I was like, ugh, I don't want to be here. This is the exact opposite of everything I've ever done.
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
kind of music and it pays the bills.
Right.
But I was just always blown. Like, that's the thing, is like the car services is why I stick on. It's just because like it would be our entire, like, it would be like half of our recording budget would be what they spent on a car service in like weeks, like 1 week. Like it was just like, but it was just accepted. It was just like, and I think a big chunk of it was, now it's been explored, is because like, 70s albums existed.
Yeah.
Like before that was singles, and then there was a dip, and then
Yeah.
albums became a big thing because music became bigger in culture. So your Led Zeppelin era, but that at that point, like Three Dog Night could sell billions.
Right.
Like Average White Band would sell billions
Right.
somehow.
Right.
But it could make a living. And then there was a dip.
Yeah.
And then CDs happened because then it was like, oh, we can buy everything again, like,
Yeah.
and sell it at a premium. And then it dipped again. But Arista, I remember the whole time just being like, you're all living like it's 1991.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and especially with Whitney coming back, it was like her budget was insane.
Right.
And I was like, what are you doing
Well, I
with
think
this?
Lauryn Hill still has like a crazy, like, so Lauryn Hill's like blowing millions
Sure.
of dollars and just not releasing albums. But
Right.
it's like there's certain artists like that can do it, that are from that era. And I also feel like there's like an era, like you said, in the 70s, like whoever the fuck is going to sell a ton of records.
Right.
And those artists too, like they're still collecting royalties off that
Yeah.
stuff. It's like so insane how different it is now. Like
Right.
where you have to like get so much buzz initially. And I don't know if you have this experience, but like I've done a lot of like production for digital shit. and I'm like bitter. Digital shit.
Fucking bullshit.
But like, it's like you literally fucking will, like, if as many eyeballs went on the shit that the music that I've produced like 20 years ago,
Right.
like I would not have to worry about money.
Right.
But it's just, there's no royalties. It's
Right.
all a buyout. It's just, it's
I mean,
sad.
and weird,
It's
like
sad.
it's like it's I think like I don't know. Again, like I mean, that's also part of probably what we'll continue to talk about today. Like coming from a punk world, like I didn't expect anything. Like I was just playing.
Right.
Like it's like doing improv and sketch.
Yeah.
It used to be like it was just like, well, I'll just keep doing this.
Right.
And wasn't playing a music that was viable. Like the only taste of it was in the Brooklyn rock explosion, quote unquote, when my band Panthers was existing. But even then, like I was like fighting against it the whole time.
Yeah.
And still, like to this day, the band I've made the most money off of is off the most punk label that ever existed, because it was like a 50-50 deal with like our friend Kent in Ebullition.
Yeah.
And there's no contract, and it's just like he's like, yeah, I don't know, I printed more.
Is that the
They
area?
sold.
Is that the area you're going to talk about?
Maybe it depends. It's whatever you want, like because there's many eras.
yeah.
There's so many eras.
Welcome to Who You Were. My name is Patrick Noth.
What's up? I'm Sebastian Canale. What's up, all my bad boys and bad girls out there? What's up, little kitty cats?
R&B lead.
Where we at?
Look at Sebastian's picture today. He's in rare form.
Rare form, fly as fuck. No, you know what sucks? I feel in those moments you feel cool, but then I'm sitting here with these headphones on. And I got a pimple on my ear.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts the whole
All I
time.
can think is I got this stupid pimple in my ear, and I'm going, I'm fly as fuck over here. I go, ooh, my little baby ear hurts.
You know you got that shit from that hat, too.
Oh, dude,
Yeah,
you
man.
know,
Method Man's giving you that one.
I got greasy hair. I got thin hair like a fucking Swede, but greasy like a fucking Italian. It's disgusting.
Beautiful mix of pimple on your ear.
Oh my god, it's well, live your truth, bro.
LYT.
This is a podcast where we bring on comedians. We ask them about a time in their life when they were significantly different. Tonight we have a guest who I've wanted to talk to about this for a really long time. Sebastian, you want to intro him?
Yeah, we got Geoff Garlock. Clap your hands. Hell yeah.
Oh, hey.
You know him. He does. He's at UCB. He's a UCB teacher. He's a writer, sketch team. He's been on More Night. You know, he's directed fucking half the shows at the theater. You also know his podcast, Worst Gig Ever. Hell yeah, dude. Don't worry. I got you.
I'm worried. I'll let you go.
Worst gig. No, now's when I need help.
Yeah, you probably don't need
Contributor for Weekend Update.
Oh, you threw it in, you son of a bitch. One joke.
Yeah. Hey,
It's a good joke.
One joke more than me, bro.
Oh.
Well, I never tried that.
Okay, well.
I never tried. Dude, if I had tried...
If I had tried, dude, they've been
jokes.
begging me to try it. Weekend Update goes, please, Sebastian, we need your subversive humor to come in here and fucking flip Michael Che's world upside down. I go, fuck off. I'm busy wiping my ass, you scumbag. What am I talking about? We gotta show you. And he's been in a bunch of bands. This is where I need help because I don't know anything about punk.
My band now is Low Estate.
Yes. Low Estates.
Before that, I was in a band called Panthers, and for that band called Orchid is the band most people know me from.
From Orchid.
Yeah.
And your most recent band, you guys just released an album.
We did.
What?
Yes.
And is that this year?
Yeah, October 20th it came out, so a little more than a year ago, or close to a year.
Awesome. And
ago.
have you toured for that one?
No.
Okay.
We played
What?
some shows. We played a couple shows locally, but I Got a Kid. Our bass player is in Austin.
Of
Right.
course.
Our singer is the video photo editor for Revolver magazine.
Right.
Our drummer's in another band who tours nonstop.
And
Right.
you're lead guitar?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. You like that math I did?
That's very good. Good
It was
going.
either you played the
I played the theremin. Sorry.
Wait, so the area you want to talk about, are you going to talk about Orchid, or are you going to talk about...
I mean, they're kind of they merged. It's
Okay.
all the. I mean, I would say touring musician era.
Yeah.
Sure.
When I was really doing that and not comedy.
Right.
There was a carryover, all of these merge into it, but especially Orchid and Panthers kind of became one thing.
Yeah.
So around that time.
That was the era.
Yes. We'll say end of college into early 20s.
Okay.
sadly longer, but I'll keep it to that.
And are you in New York at this point? Like, where did you go to school?
I went to school at Boston University.
Okay.
Orchid was based in Hampshire, which was in Northampton,
Yeah.
Mass, which is like hour and a half away.
Is that where you're from?
No, I'm from Cheshire, Connecticut.
Okay.
Sean Clements is from there as well.
Oh, yes.
Joe Spellman. The guy who invented the word punk to be used as music, Legs McNeil, is from Cheshire, Connecticut.
Legs McNeil.
Yeah, he's like, he wrote this.
You can't say shit like that.
I know, I shouldn't be able to.
Didn't play an instrument, but Legs McNeil.
He walked around naming. He goes, man, that sounds like jazz to me. Wapple, wapple, wapple. And that was his legs walking away.
He wrote this book, Please Kill Me, which is like the oral
okay.
history of like the Lower East Side.
Yeah.
Oh, please
world,
kill me.
basically.
Oh, no, I love the title.
You know
Wonderful guy.
You know what's crazy, and this has nothing to do with anything, but that punk era was actually the first group of people that accepted hip hop artists from the
Yeah.
Bronx, and they brought them all down there to the clubs, and they let them spin, and they embraced the culture.
I mean, they both were subcultures
Yes.
that, like, were outside of the world.
Yeah.
Like, and that crossover of you got your classic Debbie Harry with Grandmaster Flash. I
Yes.
think.
Nice.
And I told a guy in Middle America, I was just on a trip, and I told him, he was talking about punk, and
Right.
I told him that, and he clearly didn't like that I liked hip hop, and he was visibly disappointed by that fact.
Sure. I mean, that's the other problem with like punk and then hardcore is like there's so many, a billion subgenres, and then even the fact that like what year you got into it will change like your entire trajectory of what you were into.
Sure.
Yes.
Like literally, like I would meet hardcore kids who were like, "Oh, you got into in '95. You liked all of these bands. I like all these bands because I got into in '96."
Right.
Wow.
But yeah, Hampshire was where Orchid was from, and my senior year of college,
What were you in school for?
Film and philosophy minor.
Oh.
All great money makers.
Oh yeah.
Then I decided to do music and comedy.
Yeah. Yep.
And then Orchid was in Hampshire, and I joined there because their bass player was not doing well in school and had to take time off. And I joined to go on a tour, and then stayed in Orchid for the rest of my senior year, which led into my last, first year of out of college.
And were you able to balance that like double major with, studio time and touring and stuff like that?
Ish. I mean, yeah, because it was like kind of. I mean, yeah, I was because we weren't like again like Orchid was playing. Now people like have this reverence for that band in a certain sub world,
Right.
But like no one was at the shows. Like
Yeah.
we were playing houses and house shows in VFW halls,
Right.
But like my first real tour was my winter break
Okay.
of my last year of college, which just happened to be a week off of Hampshire's, which was annoying. So I had to like talk to all my professors and be like, "Hey, can I fucking take a week like late?" And only one guy wouldn't let me, Professor Art Carney.
Fuck him.
What do you mean he wouldn't let you?
It was for independent film, and he said, no, you're going to miss too much. Sorry, you got to take another class. Everyone else was like, yeah, this is a great life experience. You're in film school, whatever.
So he was like, you have to take because you were going to miss a week of class?
1 week, because it was like a 2-week tour.
I missed weeks consistently
Right.
to stay home and get fucked. I would wake up, smoke weed, and watch Wendy Williams. And that's why I would miss school. I would miss weeks.
Life experience. It's cool. But yeah, and like, I mean, but when I joined Orchid, and they had already booked, like, we were doing like a weekend in a studio, and the guitarist had already written our 10-inch basically, and the 2 split 7-inches we were going to be putting out.
And
What
so
does that mean for?
Oh, sorry.
No,
Yeah.
please. I don't know. I don't know anything.
A regular LP is 12-inch.
Cool.
And then you can, especially punk, we would do a lot of like different weird sizes, but like 10-inch is just a smaller LP.
It's
just
just
less
less-
material.
yeah.
But when I joined, I think we were doing our Dance Tonight Revolution Tomorrow 10-inch, which was Orchid record, a split with the Red Scare, which was a band that ended up being in Panthers with me, the guitarist, but we were on tour with as well. And then the split with this band Jerome's Dream, who are from Connecticut too. But that record was actually it's like one of our more famous records.
Yeah.
It's a one-sided skull-shaped record that glows in the dark, and then also the grooves went opposite. So like you'd have to find where it is, and like I think Jerome's Dreams went out and ours went into the circle.
Holy shit.
And that's like one that shows up as like I got this crazy screamo record. It's like,
Wow, and so they had to press that? Did they even, how the fuck did they know how to do that?
There were companies like this Pirates Press and stuff, they would do all these weird, like I have records that are like razor blades, they did a lot of, you can do a lot of weird shaped vinyl, but they had to do a lot of work. My buddy Chris Norris from Combat Wounded Veteran, and he's known as Stake Mountain, did the art. And but yeah, so I had joined being like, all right, we've got the studio, we're going to teach you all the songs.
And how were you different at this time? Like, are you, because I know that you still play music,
right?
But it's like in college, what would you say like the biggest difference in terms of socially? I
mean, weirdly, I mean that's the hard part. Is like I'm both completely different and exactly the same,
right?
Like I mean, like I'm like now I'm like a married man with a kid. Mm-hmm. Like I play music on the side somewhat, but it's still heavy music. And then mostly focus on writing and shit. But at the time, like I didn't do anything comedy related.
Yeah.
I hated all the comedy people at college. Slow children at play were annoying.
Sure, I hate comedy people.
Yeah, like they kind of suck.
Fucking suck.
Right, they kind of blow. But so do music people. I don't like anyone, I think.
Everyone sucks.
Everyone sucks.
You know who are good? Once a person dies, they're good.
Then they're the best. And they're saints, and I love them forever.
I was just talking about that today. I'm like, we always like, I wish I could almost walk around the world as if everyone had already died. Because then I would be like, yeah, man, they were great at this.
Yeah.
Because you never fucking, pick out any of the negative shit.
Right.
After the fact.
I think at the time, I mean, at the time, I was just like, I mean, like, again, I'm still straight edge, but I was like super straight edge.
Yes.
Super vegetarian.
What's the difference between super vegetarian and regular vegetarian? You were like
straight edge. I was just like outspoken about like every.
So you're an asshole.
I mean,
about it.
like more so. Like, but at the same time, not because my best friend was always a drinker.
Okay.
Like like I never was in a straight edge band per se because like I was always my high school band. Was with my best friend again, who always drank.
Yeah.
He was just a dirtbag who drank.
So you weren't that because I think a lot of straight edge people like hang together. So what precipitated that decision?
I mean, I was always a non-drinker and non-drug use completely. Like I've gotten drunk once in my life. I smoked weed for a couple months. Like hit around the time of Woodstock '94, so it worked out well.
Nice,
snoochie boochies.
Yes, Jay and Silent Bob for life.
But I mean, I come from like my family has a lot of drinking problems and a lot of drug problems. Still do, and they're still coming to a head lately. But and so like I also like. I always was like, that's what everyone else does.
Right.
And I fucking hate everyone else.
Yeah.
I hated jocks. I hated, like, everyone who was... And, like, when I was starting to get into music, then all of a sudden I was like, oh, there's a name for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, and I'm like, I never was religious. And I was like, so I never had that. It was just straight up, like... It wasn't even that, like, I didn't care about going to parties, even when I was 13.
Yeah.
I was lonely and sad and depressed. I think that's also a big difference. Like, I'm a lot more put together mentally.
Right.
I think especially when I was in a band, etc., I was, like, very depressed and very, like, a lot of mental stuff.
What would you attribute that to, like, just, like an unawareness of what... Because I like, feel like when I was, like, 32 was the first time I realized that, like, sleeping and eating affect what... is happening in my brain. I don't like what do you think?
I mean, I think the biggest was just like, I mean, my therapist always like anger is the easiest emotion. I think I would throw everything into anger.
Yeah.
Like I know where it was from. It was just like I got a lot of issues with my dad. My parents got divorced when I was 17.
Yeah.
My brother has always had a lot of issues. Like we've got an 8-year gap, so we're kind of almost not even brothers, but we are.
Yeah.
And a lot of that anger at like having kind of emotionally immature parents led into, I found a subgenre that now as I've gotten older, like one, it matched all of my desires for heavy music, screaming nonstop, and aggression. And I could scream because my high school bands, I screamed in them. I wasn't a play music I didn't play an instrument. But I mean, now as I've gotten older and started to do therapy, like then I was like, I was surrounded by people with mental illness.
Yes.
Like no one at any punk club was healthy.
Yes.
Like legit, like where I was just like, there's no reason there should be like kind of crews that are basically gangs.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like,
I have a lot of anger and
we're in New York. Like, fucking DMS was like a crew I was scared of.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, because if they came to mess, like, we played a show with my high school, I think with Switch Dance, my high school band, with Earth Crisis. It was this huge show, but there was like beef because FSU crew from Boston came down to fuck with fucking New Haven crew, and they pulled a gun.
Holy shit.
And all this stuff. Like, there were always fights and everything. And I would just be like, yeah, this is hardcore.
So,
like, that's how it is.
But you probably loved that was happening.
I did to some, because I was like, this isn't high school. Like, but at the same time, like, I never liked the clickiness of hardcore either.
Sure.
And punk. Like, it drove me nuts. Like, I never liked it. Like, I remember, but at the other same time, I remember when the cool girls from high school came to one of my shows and I alienated them because I was like, this is my place. Get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Wow, I didn't expect that story to end like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, I was just a jerk all around. And
Really?
like finding ways to not get into relationships.
Hold on, let me find my
Yes.
words. But you must have like liked the cool girls. You must have been like, I want to. No, you didn't. You weren't like, these girls are beautiful,
I did like,
or they're
no,
cool,
they were,
and I want to hang out with them.
I legitimately do think, and I don't think it's revisionist history, I kind of knew that it was bullshit then, and knew that it was going to end up continuing
bullshit?
to be bullshit. Yeah, sorry to break it to you. It got solidified when I went to my 5-year high school reunion, and I was like, already?
Right.
You all are a mess?
Yes.
But I think just, again, that's why even with like, for whatever reason, I think a big chunk of it is like, my brother was a cool kid.
Right.
My brother was like all-American football, lacrosse player.
Was he older or younger?
Older,
8
8 years older.
Okay.
Fucking won Mr. Cheshire, which was some weird male pageant we had. My dad was one of our high school football coaches. Like, all this is just this is how you became a punk.
What was it called?
Because then there's me. I'm like a little tiny man in I'm like a boy in high school. My voice, I'm just like, hey, what's up? Like,
Sure.
What was the pageant called?
Mr. Cheshire, which is our,
Cheshire?
like, yeah.
And was your dad like, are you going to do Mr. Cheshire?
No, that's the thing. Like, they were done paying attention by the time I was around.
Right.
I mean, like, they were happy I was doing plays and shit. Like, I had played football my fucking freshman year. I played lacrosse.
And your dad was your
my
coach?
junior. Yeah, it was a nightmare.
That must have fucking sucked. I played football, and I hated the coaches with all my heart. Because
we were good. That was the problem. We were like, not Friday Night Lights, but like...
No, you were from Connecticut.
But at the same time, like... our coach my dad's one of my close friends was this guy Steve Adazio, who became like head coach of Syracuse.
Wow,
like he's like legitimately like one of these people. Like
it's a program.
It was a huge program, especially for like Northeast. Right. And my brother was like a great linebacker, and then was a great defensive player for lacrosse.
That's amazing. Linebacker is like a fucking badass too.
And then when I played, I was
free safety.
And my dad made me a cornerback. But
put him in the back.
This is what he would do. That I knew all these things. I was like always too smart and knew what he was doing. I was like, this is fucked. I would alternate every play. So I could bring in the play, and then he would put me wherever he thought they weren't going to bring the ball.
Brutal.
No.
So basically, it was just like, my son's fine. I'm just going to stick him where he hopefully won't get hurt.
Oh, no.
And
brutal.
I was like, this sucks. Like, and then he was like, hey, you're going to play lacrosse. And so I just kept playing lacrosse, and it was always battle lacrosse.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, this is all like, anytime,
it makes sense.
Anytime anyone's like, oh, your dad was a football coach, now I get it.
Yeah. But then now you're like in school and you're in this punk scene, and which
was the nice part of going to college. Like it's like finding UCB for people later. Like all the hardcore kids hung out. Like, and then my wife, I like met her at college, and we were just friends she was dating this idiot for like 4.5 years.
Yeah.
But like she was
fuck
in
him.
He really is like he was like a dumpster diving idiot.
Oh my God.
Like a freaking like ride the rails moron. And she's happy with me saying this because we have the whole time she's like, I kind of want to date Geoff. And I was like, yeah, I'd like to date you. But like she was in the indie rock crew. We were in the hardcore crew.
Yeah.
And then we kind of merged, and then slowly it all kind of started becoming one. But it was immediately I had friends. I was just like, oh, okay.
It was a good platform. It was like, this is what I think, and finally I'm finding people that think that similar way. So it's nice to have friends.
Which is what happened when I found punk, too. Like, all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is literally what I will do every weekend. like there was a club called the Tune In that we went to in New Haven, Connecticut, and we were playing shows. Like my high school band, like we didn't go to party again. Like my buddy would call from study hall, on the payphone to call Fernando at the Tune In, and be like, "Can we get out this Madball gig?" and then we would, and then that's what we do. Like every weekend, it was like us, Fast Break, Tenfold, Sum of All Fears, this band Hatebreed, who are now the biggest band, but like I know them from like Connecticut, where I was like, Jamie used to book every show. Yeah. But that's what we would do in high school, was just like play shows, and I would scream like an idiot.
Yeah. Did you play an instrument at that time?
I played bass and would like write a lot of our most of our stuff, like to some extent, like me and the guitar player, but I just screamed. I was just the front man.
Sure.
Yeah. Because I was angry. Like
Right.
And I sounded like a 35-year-old then. Like my voice was like this burly, and then everyone would be like, "You're a little boy," and I was like, "I am." Like, thanks, puberty.
Wait, so but at that time you're like, I knew sort of the popular thing was bullshit and like the cute girls were, but you didn't care at all about that. Like you're the fucking front man in this band, and you're not like thinking like, oh, none of your motivation is like.
My motivation more ended up being like, and even then though, I would say like wasn't even completely like, again, I don't think this is revisionist history. I think it kept us from becoming as popular as we could, but like I wanted to be higher up in the hierarchy of Connecticut hardcore.
Yes.
But mostly because I was like, I want to play better shows.
Right.
Like I was like, I don't really care about hanging out. Like slowly I would be like, it feels like these like 30-year-olds, these 28-year-old old hardcore dudes are like trying to fuck 16-year-old girls. And like now you're like, ugh. Like, like, and then I was like, ugh. Like I was like, it's not going to help continuing to be like an old hardcore dude who's like only hanging out with teenagers.
Yes, I remember when I was doing I was also the front man in high school for a band, and it was so insane to do shows with those guys who were like in their 30s and still touring, doing the same shows as us, or even like opening for us, and it was just like
which then gets in your head when you become that age, and you're like, oh no, I'm becoming the thing I'm worried about. Like I am touring the same venues I toured when I was 17, 18.
Right, but that's not like the only thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So you guys, when does momentum start to pick up? Like when do you guys, you start selling records, you're pressing these different vinyl, like.
Yeah, I mean, Orchid, like, there was a world of like again, like weird. I'd heard on the other podcast where I was like, "Oh, I'm old." Like you were bringing up like old screamo bands or something, and I was like, "Oh, that's like an era after us." Like, like, and that's not a term it was just hardcore bands, but whatever. Like, at the time, like, our shows would do okay. Like, but when I say okay, like. Some shows would be like a couple hundred if it was a big fest, but most of the time it was still like 30 to 100 kids.
Yeah.
But we went on tour. I was just like, it kind of didn't matter. Like in record wise, I was just like, yeah, we sell. It seems like we sell shirts because people really like merch. That's why we had a song called "No, We Don't Have Any More T-Shirts." Like it was just like, shut up, kids. But like at the same time, I was like, oh, we're touring America, and then we went to Europe. Like, and I didn't have to pay anything.
Yeah,
like it covered our costs. Like it was Orchid was a lot to cover our costs, but I think Orchid also was like any other influential band where it's like it didn't really make any money. It was not in a world where it should make money.
Right.
But there is a lot of like when you see photos, you're like, this is what it was really like, kids.
Right.
Not many people. Like, right. It's only after the fact like that people are like, oh, this band was huge. But there was a lot of like-minded bands like that we were able to play with.
And at this time, like I want to hear some touring stories. Like what are some things?
What is tour? What are you do? Are you in a van?
Yeah, van.
And are you staying in hotel rooms?
No. Orchid was never. I mean, Orchid like I never did a tour not in a van. Orchid was always us touring with another band usually, but like our guitarist drove all the time, nonstop in a van that didn't have any air conditioning.
Did he do some drugs?
No, we were all straight edge in Orchid.
You were all straight edge.
We weren't a straight edge band, but that was the one period we were in a band where like eventually our singer stopped. Calling himself straight edge, started eating meat, all that stuff. But it just happened at that time. No, he was just a control freak. He was like, it's my van. So he would just,
I get it.
and he was dirty and disgusting. He would blow snots in his hand
Ugh.
and wipe them on his pants the whole time.
Oh, God,
and he had
it's
like
like a
one pair of
10-year-old.
pants. Yeah. I mean, welcome again to hardcore. But we had no AC, and we were just going from city to city. You know,
Where were you sleeping?
usually house we'd always like either like luckily like there's a punk circuit,
Right.
So usually the person who booked the show would give you like their house or something. Europe's a whole nother bag. Like we would have a driver over there because that's just how it worked. Most of the venues had some sort of like place that you could stay. They would pay, they would give you breakfast and dinner and still pay you, and you usually sold a buttload of merch. Like or Europe was just like, oh, that's what this is like.
Yeah.
We had to like print more shirts over there.
Yeah.
Which still wasn't a huge amount, but it was just like kids were going crazy for more merch. Especially if we played like one big fest in like the Hoogavind festival, and it was like $1,000 of merch, and we're just like, okay. Like, I
Did
guess
you feel famous?
no, because again, I was like, I don't know. No, in a weird way too, because I was also antisocial and angry. Like I didn't want anyone to talk to me anyways.
So you wouldn't talk to people after the
Yeah,
shows?
I'd like to sit behind the merch and not talk at the same time. Like, I mean, I would, because there's no way to get around it. But like, I mean, and because we're just playing a house, you're at someone's house. But I mean, yeah, like I've never been like that. Would be like Panthers. We would play bigger shows, quote unquote, and more legitimate venues. Almost all of those turn into dance parties in Germany. And it would be a nightmare for me. Like, it would just be like, now I got to stick around for this foam party. They're playing, like, weird remixes of, like, some 90s song.
Well, first, I want to talk about some of the crazy shit that happened in the early touring days.
Right.
And then I want to talk about Panther and some of the bigger venues.
Sure.
Do you have any stories? Like, what's something that sticks out in your head about, like, touring? I mean, besides the van and blowing snot on his only pair of pants.
I mean, that's so weird. But, like, because, like, you know, partly, like, that's why, like, you know, again, I'll just answer whatever questions you guys want about this era, because I babble about it all the time. And like my podcast, we just talk about how terrible it is to be in a band.
Yeah.
Like most of it is pretty shitty. Like it's like, and especially like, honestly, like as someone who's never cared about like rock and roll, like, and like it's never been debaucherous at all.
Right.
Like, especially for me. And when it became debaucherous in some tours, it would be me being like, all right, I'm the only sober one. Like,
Right.
I'll drive the van while everyone else is trying to like make out with some girl missing an arm, like, or something
Holy
like,
shit.
you know, which was one person's fetish, which was weird.
How much can they satisfy that fetish? Like that's
there was one tour twice. It was weird.
Twice?
Yeah, surprising. But
Wow.
yeah, I mean, most of it, like with Orchid tours, a lot of it would just be like, what the fuck are we playing in this venue? Like
Yeah.
it was like squats and like, you know, like you'd just be like stuck with like fucking, you know, like staying at this dude from 23rd Chapter's house and be like, oh, there's a bunch of crack lighters, like, and, you know, they're smoking crack, like, in their weird house that they're squatting in, and they only have, like, no toilet but a tub that you, like, it would just be, like,
or some shit.
it would just be, like, bullshit. Like, it was just, like, insane. Like, it was just, like, where it would be, like, ugh. At a certain point, I was, like, sick of staying in houses. Like,
Right.
But we never had enough money to cover hotels. And the problem with hotels, too, is, like, unless you're smart, and we didn't have, like, the internet like, no smartphone. So it was, like, you would often be like, ugh, we'll just drive through to the next city if we can't find someone to crash at.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then it would be like, I can't drive all night. Let's get a hotel for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Try to sneak in 5 people because you're not supposed to have more than 2 people.
Right.
And then leave at 10 and be like, can we get a late checkout? Like 10:30. Like a lot of begging for dumb shit. So that's the
Yeah.
weird part. It's like tour, honestly, a lot of it was just like, all right, let's just fucking sit in the van. Like it really was get in the van. But then there would be like, it's hard because some of these things, like, they're just like commonplace to me.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, oh, that's not normal.
Right.
To like, you know, be at this, you know, weird anti-fascist squat in Germany or something.
It's crazy to think about, like, you know, in your early 20s, like what you will put up with and endure. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, because like now I'm sure you're like, I would never sleep on someone's.
It's
fucking-
one of the reasons we don't like tour as much, beyond just it being harder. It's just like, well, I also don't want to do that again.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
for
like
sure.
I'm like especially like as the punk circuit got smaller and smaller, and then it was like we were kind of more of a rock circuit. There was a lot less of just like, oh, we'll stay at this kid Bug's Bug's house. And I hated Bug. Bug fucked us over. Bug fucking booked us a show in Idaho and put the wrong day on the fucking date. And then didn't show up because he wanted to go see this band Cradle of Filth.
Oh my God.
And 3 paid people came. And we still played. And then the band we were touring with was from Norway. And they was like, we're not playing this bullshit. And then they got drunk and then went on stage and did vocal covers after we played. But it was just like, what are we doing here? And then we didn't have nowhere to stay. We're just like, all right.
And you played for 3 people?
3 people, yeah.
That's like more... That's more pressure on them than it is you.
Right.
Because one of them has to pee.
Right.
You hold your piss if you're one of 3 at a concert.
I got 2 more songs. You hold it, motherfucker.
Yeah, that sucks.
But it was just like, there is a lot of that on tour. Like, it's like, no matter what, like, the biggest bands still, you get to Middle America and you're still playing a fucking small place. Like, even if you're playing real venues, you're still like, here's a 500-person place and we hope we sell it out. Yeah. It's just the way it is.
Because there's less people.
Yeah, it's just less people. Less people care. Like there's less of a scene. Like, you know, you're going to any big city. There's going to be a lot of punks.
Yeah.
Or a lot of, like, music fans. And you get into, you know, the middle of Idaho again. There's always going to be that one area where there's a college. Yeah. There's, like, one street. And there's going to be 10 people convincing you it's just as good as New York. Right. Like, and it's just like, I swear, we got our own scene. It's great. We got a hummus restaurant and, like, one venue. And then you're like, no. I mean, that was a big thing for me. Why I loved New York is, like, every time we go on tour, I was like, fuck everywhere else. Yeah. I was like, everywhere else is just trying to lie to themselves that it's as good as here.
And you would, at that time, you weren't living here. So you would come here and you would be, like, you know, playing these venues. And there was tons of venues going to see shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. How often were you coming?
To New York?
Yeah.
New York would usually just be like, if there was, like, I mean, a handful. Like, if there was a tour, it would be always a New York show. Right. But, like, we would play ABC No Rio down the Lower East Side, which is, like, this kind of famous punk venue. We played there a lot.
Still around, right?
It's it still exists, like a collective.
Heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been
it's
there
like
before,
still exists as a collective. There still will be comedy shows there sometimes. Yeah. It's like a weird, like, co-op.
Yeah. It's like, there's, like, spray paint all over the place. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, like, we would play there. Like, you know, we played Brownies once or twice, like, you know, but, like, Orchid didn't play we also had a loft in Dumbo. Okay. Like, or my singer had a loft in Dumbo that I lived in briefly, like, before Dumbo was Dumbo. It was 2000. So like, we had a lot of shows there too.
Oh,
like,
in his apartment.
Yeah. Like, cause we had like 10 to 12 people living in there. Wow. And it was a huge room.
Did he hold on to that place?
No. Yeah, no, they blew it. Yeah.
Brutal. Yeah, that sucks.
It was this girl that I ended up dating that I think he might dated too, but, like, I moved in there and then she kind of co-owned it, but I guess she just leased it and, like, but it was like right before it blew up.
Oh, yeah.
And what was the goal? So was it just to play music?
Yeah, like, there was, I mean, which again leads into, like, maybe still is my problem with comedy. Like, there wasn't.
Right.
Like, there just, like, you know, like, one of the reasons I picked BU was because, one, I wanted to get out of Connecticut and be somewhere that there was something interesting. But also, my main thought was, like, I can get back to Connecticut to play shows.
Wow.
Because I was doing my high school band, Switch Dance, had become this band, All I Ask, and we were still playing. And I was like, I want to get back for practice. Right. And I like the scene. Connecticut's got a good scene. I'll be back to Connecticut shows.
Yeah, as good as New York, I heard.
Yeah, nah, it's better than New York.
But is that some of that?
But that was a lot of. There was no drive. There wasn't, like, it was just like.
Was it the adrenaline of the show though?
Yeah, I mean, it was just. But I think because also it was just like, I'm a punk kid. I was just like, I'm a hardcore kid. I don't know. This is what I'm going to do.
This is what I do.
I don't know. Like, and in college, it was kind of the same thing. Like, I was just like, luckily, it was just, you know, my oldest friend was a singer in Orchid. That's how I ended up in Orchid. Yeah. But that's why we were visiting each other home, and he was just like, hey, our bass player is, like, failing out of school. Like, can you play bass on the next tour? And I was like, sure.
And Orchid had, like, a academic policy that was like, you have to do
we were very into learning. I mean, oddly, in some ways we should have. Like, that was one of the banes of Orchid and Panthers to me, is, like, me and the singer were both really into, like, critical theory stuff to an extent. Yeah. But that was, like, that was one of the reasons people liked Orchid a lot, was, like, it was very, like, intellectual, quote unquote. Yeah. Like, all of our songs were about, like, Nietzsche and the Situationist movement in 1968 France and, like, Foucault. Like, and it was like, this isn't stuff you talk about in hardcore. Right. Yeah. And then now, even as a 40-year-old, I was like, I'm still not sure I get it. Like, I'm kind of dumb. Like, but... no, I mean, like, but I don't think there was a goal. I think, and, like, I was saying that the other day at, like, an accountability meeting that I do, like, for my fucking career stuff, where I was just like, I sometimes just need to remember that. Yeah. For writing and comedy of just like that there isn't a goal, like that mindset of just like when you're in high school and you're just like, this is the thing I do.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there was, like, I really wasn't. And I mean, I think that's also why, of the many problems I got with my dad, like once I remember being home and like he wanted to like hang out and like I didn't realize he wanted to get lunch, so we just met in a Burger King parking lot and he bought me a soda.
Your dad's a drug dealer? What the
what
fuck
it felt like. He just was just like, I thought we were gonna eat, I guess we'll just go out of a soda. And he was just like, so what's up with this band? So like there was like his one moment of kind of being an interested dad,
right?
But he was like a little wary, and he was just like, just keep your wits about you, like, because I think he was like, I don't know what your plan is here.
Right.
And honestly, I didn't. Why did I move to New York? It wasn't because I graduated with a film degree. And I was like, oh, there's work in New York. It was because Jay moved here.
Yeah.
And the guitarist of Red Scare was going to move here. My drummer was moving here. And I was like, okay, we'll just start another band.
And so that's how Orchid basically broke up. Is everyone
And a
moved
lot,
to New
like,
York?
we graduated.
Yeah.
Like most hardcore bands break up, is they became adults. Like, it's really what happened. It was just like everyone graduated. Will stayed in Hampshire, our guitarist, and then the drummer, Geoff, moved up to New York. Jay had already moved here because he had dropped out of college. I graduated college and we were on tour for 5 weeks with Orchid like 2 weeks after.
Yeah.
Like, I came to New York, we screen printed patches, and then left.
Are you happy?
Now?
No, then.
No. No.
You're not.
No.
But
the look on your face when you answered that question.
Caught me off guard. What? Like, hey,
believe it.
Therapist, chill out.
You said no, but your face said absolutely not.
Yeah.
well, you gotta ask because it sounds romantic. Like
It sounds romantic. I was as happy as I could be. I will say that.
So you think if you were doing something else, you wouldn't have been as happy?
100%. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I hated all that stuff at the beginning. Talk about working at Airs. Like, I fucking hated it. Like, I mean, that's part of also, like, I had to do a lot of temp work, especially, like, beginning of Panthers, and it was all, like, out of fear. It was just, like, I got to pay the rent.
Yes.
I think that's also coming from punk and hardcore, and especially, like, again, a lot of this critical theory stuff was, like, about, like, the kind of fucking, the noose of capitalism.
Yeah.
And how we're like become like fucking workaday slaves, and like a lot of young hardcore lyrics are about that, of like the fucking the prison of 9 to 5. But I legitimately felt that. So like but at the same time, like Panthers became a whole nother thing, because like Panthers was a band that like I loved being in Panthers. I was in Panthers longer than I was in Orchid in the grand scheme. We were a band longer, but I'm not sure I ever completely felt like this sound is exactly us. There was always something a little bit like, oh, we're 5 people who haven't figured out what we are together.
But that's when you moved to New York, and you said the guitarist stuck around. Who from Orchid stuck around?
The guitarist stuck in Amherst and still is there.
Okay.
Like, and he's had a billion bands. He has a recording studio. Like, he's still very punk.
Yeah.
He's like still with 20-year-olds, it feels like, but like, but he's great. We actually put a record out together that was 3/4 of Orchid, called Ritual Mess, like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a great way to do it, where it was just like he had this friend from Australia who had met on tour, and he was coming to America, so they had written some songs. So we just went there, wrote an album in one weekend. I came back another weekend, recorded my bass in 8 hours.
Awesome.
And then went home, and then Jay did his vocals separate, and then I was like, oh, there's a record. Which is the best way to do a record. Don't be with people. Yeah. But yeah, no, all the other 3 members of Orchid, we all moved to New York. And we all lived together briefly.
And so all 4 of you were in Panthers?
Yes.
Or
all 3 of us, yes.
All 3 of you?
Yes.
And you guys, did you start, you started writing songs? Did you start, how did you guys sort of like, become known?
I think a big chunk of it is like, now it's gross that there's like an oral history of the Brooklyn rock explosion. I was just talking about this the other day. There's this book, Meet Me in the Bathroom, which is so weird.
Yeah.
It is like an oral history of 2001 to 2006 or whatever. But we just happen to be in that world. Like, it's just like, and again, I do think it's, why did that happen? Because everyone graduated from college, from their respective colleges, and moved their band to New York.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Panthers, like the guitarist of this band, Red Scare, that we were on tour with, was moving to New York, so we lived together. And then he had a bunch of songs. He wanted to start a new band. He wanted to play with us. he just had some riffs, so we were all living together. We started writing shit. And then asked our guitarist, Justin, who was an amazing guitarist, who was older than us. Now, as an old man, I was like, he was like 30 when we were like 21.
Yeah.
I would have killed me. But also, he's very Peter Pan-y. But now owns a wonderful restaurant and is a wine buyer and all this stuff.
Sure.
But either way, he joined. He thought he was getting asked to join Orchid because he was drunk when he got asked, and then realized it was Panthers, and he was like, all right, fine. And then we just kind of started playing. But there was enough of a Brooklyn scene. Like, there was like, we would play with the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and we would play with... the Liars, and then but that was like, and then we eventually, we put out a record on like Steve Aoki from fucking the biggest DJ in the world.
Yeah.
Now had a record label that was a punk label.
So how does that
like
happen?
we used to
Like,
play with his band.
He just so he
was in this band This Machine Kills, who we played at the Pickle Patch in Goleta, California to again 20 people maybe. He was just screaming in a punk band.
Right, and then he's like, so hop on this record.
And so he was friends with us. He wanted to put out a Panthers record. We had put out a record on Trouble Man, which was our guitarist's old band had put out a record. It's again Friends of Friends.
Yeah.
All these kind of punk labels that kind of were worse than the major label maybe. And
in terms of deals?
Yeah, just like, one person running a label who doesn't really know what's going on in their lives.
Right.
Like right at the time when they probably should be in therapy. I love Steve too, but like I haven't seen Steve in fucking years because now he's a $13 million a year fucking DJ who throws cake at people. But at the time he just put out the Panthers record, and I would just be amazed that he would get drunk off of one beer. And I'd hang out with Devin Aoki and be like, you were in Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. That's weird. But I think honestly, and then Vice just ended up like, Vice had a record label, Vice Magazine, before they were really, really big. And they liked our first record and our EP, and then they wanted to put out a record, and then they were a subsidiary of Atlantic, so we're like, let's try it. At the time, we almost didn't sign because of Gavin McInnes.
Right.
Because he was a part of it.
That guy sucks,
and luckily he had just said something super racist in the New York Times.
Wow.
And so they were like, we're getting rid of him. It's cool. So luckily they got rid of him, and then we're like, okay, we'll sign. And now he's become a fucking monster in our world. But I mean, honestly, a lot of it was just kind of the world. It was just like, I would just go along with it. But at the same time, like, I would do dumb shit. Like, I remember turning down a show with, like, everyone was pissed because I was like, we can't play with the Yeah Yeah Yeahs because I gotta go see Morbid Angel, who was just this death metal band who I always wanted to see. Like, it was just some small show, Mercury Lounge, but, like, I was just like, I didn't know they'd become, like, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, like, this huge band.
Right.
But that's what would also happen with us. Like, the tours that Panthers would go, like, Panthers never really... I think we never completely jived with that world. We were in all those like articles about Brooklyn rock,
right?
But in my mind, I was like, I'm still kind of a punk kid and like care more about like I wanted to be in a metal band or in a stoner rock band, even though I was straight edge. And then they wanted to like some of them wanted to be more of an arty band and saw our friends get money and popular and was just like, oh, we could do like what Queens of the Stone Age does. What about that?
Right.
And like, Vice wanted us to be on Warped Tour, and I was like, I don't want to be on Warped Tour. Like, we turned down tours we probably should have done.
So there's like a level of cynicism still that you're bringing to it in terms of just like going commercial or being like a commercial act.
Punk ruined like that for me. And like in some ways, I do believe in it, and I think it was the right path. But like, there are definitely times where I was like, I'm like 27. Like 29, like, and I'm like, I gotta make this work if we're doing this.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. Like,
so does that mean saying yes to things?
Yeah, but it was always so hard to tell because we would also we would always joke that if you went on tour with Panthers, then you became big. Because like we went on tour with TV on the Radio for 2 weeks. And it was supposed to be a co-headlining tour. And then, like, maybe 2 weeks before, the manager was like, yeah, I think TV on the Radio is going to get pretty big. And, like, I think they're going to headline. And we're like, yeah, they should. Like, it's true. And then they did. They, like, the next tour they went on was with fucking Nine Inch Nails. Like, and then we went on tour with this band, a Vice tour with Death From Above 1979, who ended up, like, even then, they were like, when we get to Canada, because they're from Canada, like, it's going to be a big show. And it's like, whatever. And then we got there, and there was a commercial for our show on TV. And I was like, okay, it's going to be a bigger show.
What's the biggest show you remember doing?
I mean, some of the big ones are like, I'm trying to, like, I mean, like, the biggest tour we did was with this band High on Fire. It was our last tour. and they were this metal. They're one of my favorite metal bands, and like that was always big venues. We played like Intonation Festival in Chicago. That was like buttload of people. We opened for Primal Scream at Bowery. That was very big.
Yeah.
That was always the thing too. Is like we never did the huge shows, but like, or we would turn down stuff. Like we were going to play Download Festival, which is this humongous festival in England. But then our label was just like, "No, you're just there. You're not going to give you tour support." And I was like, "Okay, I guess we just won't."
Yeah.
But that was also like everything we produced was like the opposite of what they were expecting.
Yeah.
Almost every record.
Right.
So, and it just slowly, the band just dissolved.
Is that because you guys still, like, how many of you had that sort of punk attitude? Like, well, we're not going to fucking give them this indie Brooklyn shit that they want.
I think it was maybe 2 or 3 of us to varying levels, but not completely. I think everyone just had all their own shit.
Yeah.
Like, I do, now I'm like, as I'm 40 and been in therapy for many years, like, no one who's young should be in a band. Like, it's just like you're mentally not there, you know? Like, no one is mentally sane enough to be in a van together.
Sure. But then what are you supposed to do? Sit in a room, jerk off till you're 40?
I mean, I did that too for a lot. So, you know, but I could cover both those bases. But no, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I don't know. Like, we also were terrible at talking to each other. Like, it just like, and then also at the same time, I started doing UCB stuff in the middle of all this.
So that's what I wanted to, like, that's like such a interesting thing to me is like when you made that leap or what happened? How did that happen?
I mean, I took classes. I remember I went to my first show maybe a couple weeks after 9/11. Because my drummer wanted to go to laugh again. Yeah. Remember when we weren't sure if we were going to laugh again?
Sure. Right.
And then so I went to 22nd Street and I think I saw The Swarm and I was like, this is really good. Like, and I was like, I loved comedy growing up. That's all like, I watched SCTV when I was a kid and like, you know, I every like thing I did, like I went to acting school in high school and then I went to like, you know, did film. Everything was sketch, basically. But either way, I always wanted to, and I was obsessed with Mr. Show fucking VHS that we had a bootleg of. And then eventually, like I was like, oh, I should take a class here. I didn't realize they had classes. I didn't really like the UCB show when it was on TV. Yeah. Like, I remember being, like, Will Hines used to make fun of me, like, oh, you really bet on a winning horse. But, like, I loved the other sketch groups that were on Comedy Central. Like, I loved The Vacant Lot and Exit 57.
I've never seen the UCB sketch.
I honestly, I don't know if you need to, man.
I don't think I need to either.
There's a couple. There's
a couple good ones.
I've seen a couple of good ones. The Fortune Cookie, the Ass Pennies. What else do I need to see?
You got them.
Yeah.
Right?
They're very long. Yeah. But all sketch was long at that point.
Sure.
It just wasn't my exact bag. But I was like,
to watch it, and I was like, okay,
because you're here, you got to do it.
I mean, to be honest, like,
I hated it. It made me. It reminded me why I hate comedy.
Yeah.
My biggest problem.
No, it's not, because you know what sketch is like. You know, there's what I mean. What's the actual percentages of sketches that hit? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't even think it's specific to that show. It's like, how many shows are fucking knocking it out of the park?
Man. Sketch is real hard.
You just want to be fine. You want to write a fine sketch.
UCB's makeup was disgusting. Like, that was a big thing. Like, all the like prosthetics they used were nauseating to me.
Yeah.
So, like, I had a hard time watching it. But either way, I went to see a show at the Swarm. Probably a year later, I finally, like, my singer wanted to go take a class too. So we were like, all right, let's try taking improv together. Yeah. They didn't have sketch. So I took 3 levels of improv. It was like me, a Tamanik was in my classes. It was like Anthony King, was in my level 2 with me. Yeah. I think I was Ari Vokaitis, Seth Morris, John Daly sub 1.
Who's teaching this?
That's who's teaching.
Oh, okay.
Ari Vokaitis taught.
Oh, okay.
Seth Morris taught my second level.
Sure.
And John Daly stepped in for one day.
Yeah.
Seth Morris did a lot of yoga. And then John Mulaney.
In class?
In class. It was a lot of stretching. I was like, ugh, this is not me. I also can't stretch. And at that time, too, you had to, like, wait outside to get classes. This is my old man fucking taught. Like, I remember me and a Tamanik waited on 22nd Street all night because we wanted to be in the same class together. And like went and looked at some David Icke books at fucking Barnes and Noble. And he was like losing it at 7 in the morning. It's still the funniest thing in the world. For some reason, he put like a fucking sheet over his head. And he's like, Captain, we are losing the dilithium crystals. And it was like, what a 7 in the morning bit that is not funny, but made me laugh so hard. I took 3 levels and then we went on tour. We put out our record with Vice, our first record. And then I kind of just felt like I dropped out of UCB. I remember going back to a show and asking Eugene Cordero, who I didn't know, to like, is the Tamanic back there? Can you get him to come out for a Creep show? Because I didn't see any of these teams anyone ever saw. I never saw Fwan. I never saw Creep. Because like I watched like Ice Nine, fucking Respecto, and then didn't go to UCB for like 5 years. And then finally I took a sketch class because I had been bitching and moaning. My now wife bought me a gift certificate. Like, and was just like, you've been complaining so much.
And so this is well after you're done touring and stuff like that?
Still touring at
you're
that
still
point.
Touring, okay.
So, but I would find gaps because like our tours would be like 5 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, long weekends. So like I would find like, okay, I got 8 weeks here. And so, like, I legitimately, like, she got me a gift certificate. We had enough time. Like, we were writing a record, I think. There was this nice period where Vice was, like, paying for our practice space. We were kind of making enough money that I could survive combined with her. And so, like, I started taking sketch classes and then took all the classes I could. And then eventually I was, like, done. I was like, hey, Chris Kula, what do I do now? And he's like, they're starting this thing called Mod. He's like, you should apply to that. And I go, okay. And then I applied on Mod and then got on Mod. And then was still on tour. Like, I remember distinctly emailing Anthony King because he had now become the artistic director and being like, I'm going on tour for 2 weeks. I don't want to lose my slot. I've worked it out with everyone. They're fine. Like, if I send in stuff from the road. So, like, I bought a laptop just so I could write sketch on tour. I remember sitting in Houston, like, being just like, what am I doing? Like,
and at that point, what's your mind thinking? Are you like, I want to do comedy, or are you like, I want to do...
I think that's where I was getting confused, because I think I was like at the point where I was like, I don't think Panthers is going to last. I'm almost 30. Fuck.
Sure, and you're like...
But comedy, I wasn't like, I'm going to do comedy and make a living. You didn't... Because even that... No, because I was just like, I didn't even fathom... I really, like...
I hate to sound like this, but what do you think you were going to do for a living?
I just did it.
You didn't have thoughts.
I guess honestly, in some ways, no. I was more concerned with my own fucking shit. I was so overwhelmed with like, I got to keep Panthers alive. And also, I was just like, I've lived in New York for fucking the most expensive city in the world.
You're getting by
for 12 years, 10 years somehow. Like it was, you know, the shine of temping in between was starting to really burn off. But I think, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. Like, honestly, like, sketch, I was just, like, just doing it because I was like, yeah, I guess this thing. But I wasn't, no one had jobs. Like,
no,
it wasn't a legitimate, like, I get annoyed at students now when they're just like, how do I get a manager? I'm like, you've taken, like, 2 fucking classes. Like, I don't know. Do this for 10 fucking more years. Like, enjoy and then maybe all of your friends will get jobs. And you can suck on their teeth vaguely. But I think, I mean, what you're asking is also a lot of what I've been going through, especially now that I have a kid. It's like, all right, what do I do if I actually take some of this stuff seriously?
Sure.
Because I would, like, even comedy, I would start to just sabotage and just be like, I'm not gonna go for that. I'm not gonna lean into this. I'm not gonna go to every show. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that.
And so like, you were doing that with the punk shit too, right?
Yeah, I would do it with everything.
While you sabotaging?
I mean, I think a big chunk was like, get back at my dad. Honestly, if I'm breaking it down,
you were already doing punk music.
I know, but it didn't make him listen.
Really?
Like, if that's the thing that's not going to make the person you're trying to get back at or you're angry at listen, this thing where you've thrown just like, he's an alcoholic. I was straight edge. Like, I was like,
that's clear. I'm stupid.
Right.
And I could see that.
Right. Like, it's not a hard equation. A pretty much equals B. But if he's still not really seeing that and he's just like, band stuff sounds good. Like, he's just like, but every time you go home, it's like, so what band you doing now? And it's like, Panthers. It's been Panthers for 6.5 years. Like, but like, I don't know. Like, and
what you thought? I guess you and
have an unbelievably supportive wife this whole time. Like,
wow. And when did you get married?
I guess we got married 7 years ago. We've been together for 17 years.
Wow, congrats.
Because we reunited a little bit after 9/11 again. Like, she was in D.C.
9/11 was good for you.
Yeah, I didn't want to be the one to say it, but
Let's just say it, Geoff. 9/11 was you were the phoenix to come out of that.
Oh my god!
there had to be one, I guess.
Dude, everyone could go fuck themselves. I lived through 9/11. I'm a little New York City boy. I had to deal with that shit. If I can't fucking laugh at that shit, you can eat my
Exactly.
asshole, okay?
Sure.
No, but she lived in D.C. and I lived there, and we had kind of lost track. And then she was like, "Oh, I'm worried about you. I'm worried about you." And then she visited. Then all of a sudden, she was like, "I think I actually always liked you."
That's beautiful.
And then we reunited, and then she moved up here a year later, and then we've been fucking like she's the greatest. We literally been fucking for 17 years.
17
and
years.
eventually one kid came out of it. So
yeah.
but we were like, we weren't gonna get married for so long. Like I just didn't care. Like,
And when you're talking about self-sabotage, you're saying like this is not a conscious decision that you're making. It's
this
just
is
like
deep therapy
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
Like
sure.
this is definitely like getting asked to submit to something and submitting something they had already seen.
Right.
Like shit like that.
Yeah.
But angrily. Like I
Yeah.
remember like I'll say like fucking even like I got like submit like they were like, oh, there's some job at above average. One of those billion before that fucking place dissolved.
Right.
And I remember even asking someone like, should I write new things? Because I've been kind of doing some stuff. And she's like, probably. And I was like, nah.
yeah.
Like, I'm just going to send them the stuff they've already seen.
Yeah.
And even my wife was like, I don't know if that's how it works, really. And
Yeah.
like, no. But it was like, I knew, but I just didn't want to. Like,
Yeah.
I would find ways to just like,
Didn't want to give authority what they were asking for.
Kind of.
I mean, I'm the same way. I have to work on that a lot. Like, I mean, even recently, like there was like a packet for a show that I hate.
Yep.
And I was like, fuck this, I'm not going to do it. Which
Right.
is just irresponsible at this point.
and therapy works through of like, I have legitimate anger, and then there's so much illegitimate anger and so much illegitimate, like, kind of like choices I've made.
Yeah.
And which one, because it's like, you shouldn't submit to every show. Like, not every show is for you.
Right.
But at the same time, there are definitely ones that I've been like, no, fuck this. And like, I don't want to be the, and part of it was being scared. Part of it was just like, there's still that bit of like, if I'm thinking about writing, like, I don't want to be in a room really for 13, 17 out. Like, for some show I don't give that much of a fuck about.
Well, it's also like pop culture shit where you have to
Right.
just, I mean, and that's like just, I mean, if we work, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all pop culture shit or sports
Right.
or food.
Not me.
And so that's
I'm an
like-
artist.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. But I would hide it behind like I'm an artist, and I still do think that shit.
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't know, like I like again, like there's real legitimate ones where it's like if it like I remember some packet for something about soccer, and I was like, I don't know shit about shit. I'm gonna write jokes about soccer.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's for someone who actually knows anyone who's ever played soccer.
Right,
You
right.
shouldn't do
But
that.
like, or like, oh, this is heavily pop culture. You have to know who the Kardashian, like every member of the
Yes.
like. I was like, it's just not going to
Yeah.
happen.
Sebastian booked that soccer thing, though.
Oh man, you fucker! I wanted that gig.
I call it football. That's
Okay, that was the key. That was the name of your packet. I call it
They
football.
were like, wait a minute. He wrote it, and he said football. This guy knows what he's fucking talking
Hey,
about.
shut up. I played soccer for 4 years when I was 5.
So did I. I guess I could have done the packet too. But it's just so hard. It's just so much self. Like it's. I mean, I think that's like. I don't know, and I get angry when I hear people at UCB who have a drive.
Yeah.
That is maybe, even if it's unhealthy, I'm just like, at least they have a focus.
Yeah.
Like, where it's just like, and like, it annoys, like, when I joked about that, sometimes I'll be annoyed at students, but also some students, I'm just like, I'll also be begging you for a job someday.
Sure.
Because, like, I can just tell. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just like, you've got it figured out. But, like, those,
It's
there's,
hard not to hate them.
Yeah.
Because I hate them a little bit too. I go, these people. I'm gonna sound like an asshole. I don't give a fuck. I go, these people aren't that funny,
Yeah.
Right.
But they're doing good work, and I think I have to get over the fact that like, oh, they know what they're doing. They're actually like being a good student.
no one gives a fuck about art.
No,
One.
yes.
And all of our joking, like, there is, like, funny doesn't mean shit.
No.
Yeah, no.
Discipline works better
I
than
know.
anything.
And also, though,
Yeah.
we're working
and I got
against,
the
like,
best discipline. Fat ass that barely moved out of his mom's house. Coming in, here I come. Yeah, dude, I could bear. Oh, I fucking. Oh, God.
But that's
I
the
can't
thing.
wait to go
It's
back to
frustrating,
bed
though.
after this.
But
But
it's
there are
frustrating, though, 'cause
people-
you'll be in a fucking class with like someone from Yale, and you'll be funnier than them, and then it like doesn't fucking matter. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It doesn't. At the end of the day, it's like, they were raised with something called impulse control,
Right. Yeah.
and I wasn't.
And
so-
also combined with coming in thinking it's a viable option. Like, I feel like as a teacher, like,
Yeah.
I'm constantly like, not to make this sad for you all, but like, don't think of this as a viable option.
yeah.
Like, it's not like I mean, again, like, I didn't take like, I don't know why I took classes. I took classes because I was like, comedy seems fun.
That's so interesting because it seemed
Because
like,
there was no reason to do it. Like, especially
Yeah.
sketch. There was, like, I guess there was kind of an indie like sketch scene that I didn't know shit about.
Well, people weren't getting work at that time.
No one
from
was.
UCB.
No.
Yeah.
No, like, and even that, like, I think years and years you go at UCB, you see the cycles. You see, like, oh, there's like 2 years where people are getting work, and then all of a sudden people aren't.
Yeah.
But now there's so many students who are coming in thinking,
Right.
oh, this is my grad school. Everyone does that. Like, UCB was my grad school, but like, there are people who are like, I'm taking this for grad school. I am going to do this and get. I had a student fucking like ask me on the first day about getting an internship somewhere, and I was just like, I don't know your work.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not going to recommend you.
Right. Sure.
Let alone, don't think about that right now.
But have you ever considered, because I know that when I started to do comedy, I realized that I was like, well, actually, like, because music is such a shit show in terms of earning a living, like, I was like, this is for sure a more viable. I mean, like,
I always thought it was more viable.
Yeah.
But still, I'm not sure I had enough of a mindset of you asking, Sebastian, like, what were you thinking? Like, I don't know if I had enough. Like, it was always like I was slowly easing into a warm bath.
Yeah. Sure.
Versus just like, you know what? I think this might be smart. If I write a spec script, I will actually maybe get a writing job, and
Yeah.
there's actually money in these things. Versus, oh, I got a check for $200 from BMI. Let me see it. Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God I can spread this out. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I got a 6-cent check from Muzak or something, or like
Yeah.
being psyched. Like I remember, I've brought up somewhere else too, but like there was a period, like, we're on the porno. Like, Panthers is on like this like punk porno soundtrack.
Oh,
It's great.
What's the name of the porno? Maybe I've seen
Oh,
the word.
you might not know. It was Girls Lie,
A Girl's Lie.
and it was on this like there was
I
like.
only watch women porno.
Okay, cool.
You fucking pervert.
I mean, I know. Sorry, there was a dude, so not for you. But there was this punk offshoot of like Vivid fucking porn.
Yeah.
And they and there were good bands on, like, all the soundtrack of it, but like I hardly remember signing it, saying like, yeah, sure, you can use it, but because it was $1,000.
Sure.
And Vice was just like, you guys owe us a lot of money. Like, we need some of it, you need some of it.
Because they
like,
paid studio time and
yeah,
stuff?
because our contract, like, Vice did a fucking shit move. This is fucking major label shit.
Oh,
like,
Vice is shitty? Who knew?
yeah, crazy, right? I didn't know it would go this way.
They're
we
fucking suck.
we had like a budget for like one record, and then the second record was going to be more money.
Yeah.
They did a thing where it was like 3 days before the contract was about to go out. They're like, "Oh, we just realized that you guys didn't sign this thing."
Ugh.
Like, and it ended up basically like we didn't have time to sign a new contract, and they gave us a much lower rate for a second record.
Oh my god.
Like, just to screw us. But yeah, there wasn't
They
any
suck. They're
fucking
spending
money.
all their money on their fucking Stella Artois fucking
Exactly.
tap. They got a piano player playing 24/7,
Dude.
and then the reporters they're paying $1,000 a month. They can the fuck off.
We want a fucking
It's
Vice
okay,
tour.
though. Their reporters are already rich.
Exactly.
I know.
We went on a fucking Vice tour where they were like, we're going to get you all these sponsors. It's going to be a lot of money. We're going to get awesome sponsors, this and that. Ended up being one sponsor, Sparks, if you remember Sparks.
Yeah.
Fucking
What is
malt
that?
liquor and
Oh
energy
my God,
drink mixed
yes.
together.
Yes,
The original Four
caffeinated.
Loko.
Original Four Loko. They were the only sponsor. They gave us like $1,500, which paid for a tour manager, which is our friend Sean Agnew, who was just like, we got him to just hang out in the van. And they would send crates of Sparks to every show.
Yeah.
Some shows we get there, they didn't have water for us. They were like, you got Sparks. And I was just like,
Oh my
I don't
God.
even drink, motherfucker. And everyone, it's like liquid cocaine.
Yeah.
Everyone's freaking out. There was like one show where us and the other band, Vietnam, like, our guitarist got into a fucking fight with him and like slammed his guitar into his head on stage because everyone's fucked up on Sparks.
And
But
just
like,
the banner of Sparks
What a
behind
bad
it.
idea to just mix fucking caffeine
but that was, I
and
mean,
alcohol.
why
I
I
know.
leaned also, especially into comedy, it's my like origin story for stopping touring music in some way. So it's my end story, I guess, my finality.
Yeah.
Is like, our last tour was with High on Fire, which was one of my favorite bands. I'd always want to be on a big fucking metal tour. It was 5 weeks. already, I love my wife. God bless that she fucking stuck through me.
Yeah.
Being gone for this long all the time. It's annoying to be
Yeah.
gone that long. My favorite band, at that point, it was just me and the singer because our drummer had a kid. Had another kid, so he left. Our other guitarist we had fired. Our second guitarist left because he had a job possibly, so he got someone else to come in. So we were just like, we're a ramshackle band. We came back and we were. It was the first time my wife had to pay rent for us because I was just like, and I was on the tour. This was what we were working for, and we were in the red. We literally pulled up to our practice space, dropped our equipment off, and then had to dole out money to our drummer, and we were like, we're $200 in the hole. We came in negative 200.
So I remember having like a similar revelation when I was working at a job. I don't want to say what it was,
right.
but there were a lot of guys there who had been in the music industry for fucking decades and had wait.
I sometimes it's beautiful that I'm 29 and have a filter now.
What are you gonna say? Let me have it.
I was gonna make a joke about you jerking off dudes under the bridge.
Listen,
a lot of music industry people.
I had a job. I don't want to say it was
$200 in the hole. I was paying to tug their cocks off. I went home to my beautiful girlfriend. I go, I lost money again today jerking dudes off under the bridge.
I had a similar
just like you.
It wasn't with the music industry. It was with the jerking off industry, which
like
also
there's no more money in
it. I mean, the jerk off industry tanked.
The bubble burst.
There was a lot of fucking people in the 70s fucking making money off the jerk off industry.
Oh, the Boogie Nights era. They were 2 at a time on their roller skates.
1970s, they make up lube, and all of a sudden, we've got a new industry.
We were coming money back then. But I'm 29, so
I'm so glad you don't have. You don't say that. That's
you
great.
didn't say that. I'm so glad you didn't say that. But like there was all these guys who were veterans, and they had worked on fucking albums that were classic albums, and they were at this job that I worked at for fucking health insurance,
right?
And they had families and shit, and it was like I remember I was like, even if you're successful,
right,
you're fucked now.
Which I also though feel with fucking comedy.
I know,
and I'm like, I can't. I have to stop listening to podcasts
with the digital shit.
Everything like that's just like another nail in the coffin. Like that will we'll change to something else. Like obviously, but every fucking podcast I listen with someone who I'm like, oh, you were the person who was the person I looked up to.
Yeah,
either at UCB or in something comedy, and it's just like. Oh, it's a fucking grind.
It's a grind.
It never stops. And like when I'm being positive and when I'm in good mental health, I can be like, this is the work.
Yes.
This is just the work. Godspeed. Like, I'm lucky that I'm able to talk to you fine gentlemen on a Monday afternoon.
I know, right?
Like, and be able to kind of live and like do creative things.
Because what's the alternative? I mean, what's the alternative?
I mean, that is the other part too, is like, I constantly was like, well, one, I still have that fucking punk of like, I don't want to be in an office knowing, again, most writers' jobs will just be in some fucking cubicle.
Right.
Most likely. But, yeah, like, I remember when the fucking bubble burst in, like, 2002, 2003, and my dad being like, one of his friends has, like, lost millions of dollars in his business he had worked in his whole life. I was like, God. You're all screwed. Like, we're all screwed in life. So,
it's all a made-up
in some ways,
thing.
fuck it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's all a made-up thing. It's got to come to an end at some point, right?
Eventually.
It's like, you got to have, like, there's not going to be any jobs in, like, 20. I mean, it's...
But it is hard. There's that constantly, that thing of just, like, you don't, with music, I had it. With comedy, I still do. You don't want to be the fucking... Oh, is that person lying to themselves? Like, you don't want to have someone else saying that. Not that anyone will ever say that.
Yeah, don't you wish someone would say that to your face?
There once was, I won't say names, but it was at a party, used to be a party. There was one person who once did this kind of weird thing where, like, this person's kind of depressed too, but was like, and, and it's just tough, and I don't know what happened to you. I mean, I just thought something big would happen with you, but, it's cool. I don't know. And I was just, like, sitting there, I was like, wait, what?
Oh my God.
And I was like, you're the one person who's going to fucking finally say the thing I've been worried about this whole time? And I told my wife, and she's like, fuck her. She's fucking crazy. Yeah. Like, that's not what's going on. You're doing so much shit. And I was like, yeah, I know, but...
That is the thing. Like, it's like, I actually am making a living doing this, but it just never feels like you are.
No.
You know what I mean? It never feels like you are. Like, no matter what. I think no matter what, it never feels like
I think we all are goldfish that grow to our fucking bowl. Like, no matter what. And anything we were doing. If we were selling fucking shows or on whatever show we want to do, we would be like, well, but this person did this. Yeah. Or... a lot of our friends or peers who we see, honestly, who I'm like, oh, your career might be good. I don't know if you have a social life. Like, have you ever been on a vacation?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever had a relationship that works? Like,
Right.
that's a big chunk for me is like, one of my goals in life is to continue to have amazing relationship with my wife and fucking kid. Like,
Yes.
I don't care about.
That's beautiful.
Stuff
The
it.
way you talk about your wife,
I really love her a lot.
you can make me cry, my man.
I like. Can we make this happen? But it is true.
I'm a weak soul, dude.
Oh, okay, well, but that is.
That's
But
so
like,
nice.
Yeah.
But I mean, because she really like, she's the best. Like, she really like, and also like, I think she's the funniest person in the world.
Sure.
Like, and not in the fucking industry, so that's a dream.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to compete
Yeah.
with anything with her.
Yeah.
But I think like, I don't know. I when I'm being healthy again, I can say this is the work, and this will always be the work. It'll always be tough.
Yeah.
And what made you not see that in music?
Music, I mean, every once in a while my therapist will be like, it seems like you love music more than you love comedy. And I was like, I do legitimately like playing. Like, if it works, music is much more satisfying than comedy.
Yeah.
Why don't I see it? Because it's legitimately, I think, like, especially the genre I play, especially now, Panthers maybe more so, there was a chance. It had singing vocals. There was like a period where that existed. There's just, it's even the biggest death metal band in the world still has to fucking
work.
Be like, yeah, I'm a fucking union guy working fitting pipe in between touring with fucking decrepit birth. Like, you're just like, oh yeah, you're a work-a-day guy. Like, that's how this works. Like, there's no getting around it. Like, even the bands who were big and when Panthers were big-ish, I'll be like, oh yeah, now you're back to doing editing work and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it like, it's the Cosby Show guy. Like, I mean,
Whoa, dude, come on, you gonna bring up Cosby?
I'm gonna bring it. I know, right? Man,
Stop shaming that guy for working at Trader Joe's and stop segueing to Cosby.
How crazy is that Fox article not only shames the guy and then throws in the last paragraph, basically, the Cosby Show with Bill Cosby, that guy who allegedly, and you're like, why are you attaching him again? But, like, I do think, like, I mean, that's the most clear sign of just, like, the world. Like, that's just, like, like, residuals stop eventually.
Yeah.
My BMI checks get smaller and smaller. There's only so many weird skate shows in Turkey that are playing a random Panthers, like, song.
I think that industry, too. I mean, the writing's on the wall there more than any. I mean, what are there? 15 artists in the world that make money right now.
And I bet you they are all living in the same way of when I worked at Arista, of like just hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
Because they don't know any other way.
Right.
But then it's hard. On the other end with comedy, like, and maybe you feel this too. Like, some days I'll be like, oh, I am making a living. But then also I'm like, oh, but is teaching actually comedy? But it is, but it isn't. But I ain't. Like, I get in this like fucking circle of it's just like, I don't know. This is the reason I'm still in therapy. There's still a lot I'm working through.
Well, I mean, I think you mentioned just like relationships, learning how to be in relationship with people is literally the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, as much as we love work and obsess about it and stuff like that, it's like all you got is like how you interact with human beings on a daily basis. Right.
I mean, I do think when on our first day of sketch with saying don't be a jerk in our class rules.
Yeah.
I am legitimately like, can we all think in those terms? Like, I don't think we are. Like, like, and I do think, like, I'm happy I came from music into UCB because then I was, like, I had already come from a world.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't like, I found my thing.
Yeah.
That will only be my thing.
Right.
Because, like, that's also ends up being the downfall of, like, a lot of people. Because you're like, one, there's a bigger world than UCB.
Right.
We all should probably try to get out of it eventually. But also, like, there's a bigger world just in general.
Yeah.
Like, learn how to have a relationship.
Sure.
Learn how to fucking talk to people.
Yeah.
Like,
It
learn.
also, I think, makes you funnier.
Yeah.
100%.
Like, who wants to fucking watch a bunch of improv people do a bunch of improv about improv over and over? Just a fucking infinite loop.
Yes. Wait, I just want to ask one more question before we wrap up. Is like, what I always ask this is like, what do you think life would look like for you now if you were still touring, if you were still doing all those things?
I think I would be I think I would probably, I'd be playing probably just the same venues over and over and over again. Yeah. Like, but be emotionally stagnant. Like, I mean, it's a little bit like, my wife always says about like us going to therapy, where she's like, I think we'd still be together, we just wouldn't be happy.
Yeah.
Like, where it's just like, and it's just like, yeah,
because
like,
you don't have that consistency of like being able to see each other and being able to
And I wouldn't have done any like it's not like I started really thinking about any of stuff like beyond just I'm just angry or like why is the world not giving me this or that, like until after I kind of really stopped playing music. I mean, it was actually not too far from here. I remember distinctly, still sticks in my brain, once in the middle of being in the band where my drummer, we're like just walking around from a show, and he was just like, you know, you got to just soon people are going to stop hanging out with you if you're this angry.
Yeah.
Like, and I was just like, yeah, oh, fuck. Like, and that was kind of the beginning of like, maybe I need to reevaluate how all this is.
Yeah.
But I worry that if I was still doing it, I'd probably still be temping and have some itch. Because it's, even though I love music more than comedy in the grand scheme, I love comedy.
Yeah.
So much. I love writing.
It's awesome.
I love fucking, but like, there would just be a hole.
Yeah.
And, you know, isn't that life, is trying to make the hole as small as it can be?
Yes.
Kind of.
It's so nice. You really took what your friend said and like really applied it, because you're like, the comedy is like you trying to like use your anger to make people happy rather than use, because punk, I don't know much about punk if you can't tell. But
What? Really? That's Method Man hat.
Dude, Method Man has a song with Limp Bizkit.
That's very punk.
I mean, that is punk in my mind.
Right.
So that's why I kept my mouth shut. Because I know not to talk when I don't
Fred
know
Durst,
shit.
dude, Fred Durst is the shit.
Number one punk.
Number
But
one
it felt
punk
like
boy.
punk wasn't, you were like putting your anger out to make other people angry, right?
Yes.
And this, you're like...
But again, when I realized that the putting it out, but also that everyone else is angry because they're mentally fucked up.
Right.
Sure.
Ends up, again, another infinite loop. Like
Yes.
where, and I agree, like where it was just like, you know, when my therapist was like, he repeats it too much, and I want to punch him sometimes because I am angry. But when he's like, anger is the easiest emotion.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know, but it's so satisfying. Like
a drug.
It is. That's what I've replaced fucking drinking and doing drugs with, was just pure unadulterated anger.
Yep.
And fucking, you know, let that drive me. But at a certain point, like my friend said, it was just like, you know, like I would come home and then look at my now wife and just be like, oh, right. Like this is great.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and now I'm looking at my kid and I'm like, I don't want to, I want to fuck him up in a different way. Like, I'm going to fuck him up. It's going to happen.
Sure.
Like, we're all going to get fucked up, but it's like, you know.
It's like those, they got those Japanese bowls. You ever seen these stupid things? they got these...
Please explain more. The fuck?
You ever seen these things? These Japanese bowls, and they break, and then they put them back together, and they use golds to put them back together, because the flaws is what makes the people beautiful,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
So in a way, even though you were fucked up with that shit, it's
I'm so
that,
beautiful
that's
now.
what the punk is the golds for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Right?
saved everything.
Those stupid fucking Japanese bowls.
Fucking stupid Japanese balls. You all fucking know, throw them in the ground, break them, whatever.
Yeah, so I've just been breaking myself nonstop. I want to be all gold, baby.
Fucking B-boy stance coming back.
Dude, call me Midas because I got the gold inside. Trust the Midas touch.
All right. So thank you so much for listening to
Of
Who
course.
You Were. My name's Patrick Noth. You can follow me at Patrick Noth on Twitter, at Patrick Noth with a 0 on Instagram. Sebastian.
Yeah, Sebastian Canelli. Follow me on Instagram if you want. Don't feel obligated. I don't give a fuck.
Jeff, you want to plug anything?
What do I got? Listen to my podcast, Worst Gig Ever.
Yes.
You can listen to all the old ones. There are 100 episodes. They're still up. I'm just going to explain this quickly. They're through Revolver Magazine. You have to go to Revolver Magazine podcast, and then they're under that. It's a dumb way they do it. But they're under there. JeoffGarlock.com has all my stuff, and Get the Low Estate record at the Flenser, Covert Cult of Death. And I don't remember my Instagrams or Twitter.
Yeah, don't worry about
Dude,
that.
thank
There's
you so
only
much.
so many Jeff Garlocks. Get
Sure.
out there.
Thank you so much for doing the show,
Thank
man.
you
I
for
really
having me.
appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I just want to say one last thing is like this happens on the outro, but like I don't get any money for this, so go to patreon.com/Patrick Noth. Give me $2
Patreon at Patrick.
Yeah, patreon.com/Patrick Noth. Just give me like $1 a month.
Give him $1.
Can you give it to me? You're bugging me now?
Yeah, Jeff, what you doing? Give
Okay,
him $1.
Give me $1.
Hold on, I'll check my wallet.
We come on the show. You go, hey, can you give us a couple bucks?
Okay, you take Venmo, man?
Yes, I take Venmo. It's just at Patrick-Noth. So fuck Patreon. Just do it on Venmo.
Just straight up.
What if I just beg for money every episode at the last?
Well, then we'll have to have a talk.
Step up your social media game there.
Yeah,
honestly, dude, if we fucking
I'm an
unionized and jacking off, dude, we would have fucking killed it, dude. The money would still be fucking flowing in. All right, we love you guys. Listen next week.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Who You Were. Please subscribe, rate, and review. Guest before and after pics on Instagram at Who You Were Podcast. Send your before and after pics to whoyouwerepodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at Who You Were Podcast. This podcast is produced independently. If you'd like to support it, please visit patreon.com/Patrick Noth. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.